Welcome to GM Tips. GM Rick here, and today we're going to look a little bit on world creation and then just some of the kind of advanced topics that you would use in your game that can spice things up. Now, in detailing your world and creating your world, I know a lot of people love to do home games. Drawing the map, a lot of fun. Laying out the different things, the countries, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit before on, flavors, because I hit the flavors, Asian flavors, Europe flavors, all these other flavors. So now I'm going to hit something a little bit different than that. I'm going to get to the core of defining your setting. So I think, first of all, you got to sit down and say, what is my system? And what kind of setting do I really want? Do I want a sci-fi? Do I want a post-apocalyptic? Heroes? Do I want fantasy? Do I want high fantasy? Do I want low magic fantasy? Do I want prehistoric? Do I want pre-civilization? Do I want industrial age? Do I want high seas, 1800s Victorian flavor? Steampunk? What do you want? Maybe it's turn of the century crusades and the heroic treasure and relic recovering type of setting. How you set your setting, and again, you don't have to base it off of our pan-European type of basis. You can do it however you want and design your world. Maybe it is an explorer phase where the exploration went differently than it did in the pan-European days. You can pick your setting, but you need to really sit down and decide what I want to do. One thing I would recommend before you go into the work of doing all your setting, ask your players if they would be interested in playing that type of setting. I will tell you now that the biggest heartache you're going to have as a GM is you write up this really cool setting with all these really cool things. Say like our gal back there with the steampunk type of thing. You're into steampunk, and you really want to steampunk it out. So you're going to do steampunk Victorian style. And your players go, okay. And that's like a uber letdown. You just go, power down. So really take time. Poll your players. Ask them, what would be your top 3 type of settings to play in? I know my guys like fantasy, but there's a few of them who like superheroes. A few of them want to get into the Starship era and the sci-fantasy type of thing. So what, like Starfinder, they're going to be stoked about that. But you really have to sit back and think about that for a little bit, because you're going to spend all this time investing into creating this setting, and nothing just tanks the whole creative process like your players not being excited. So keep that in mind. Will there be deification, deities? Or will it be more of an agnostic or atheistic type of setting? Or will the gods take somewhat of a role, but they're way in the background? Again, plays into the flavoring of your system. How much involvement are there? Are there angels and demons? Are there daemons? Are there those things? Are there not? Are there just other creatures? Is there a ghost influence, an ectoplasmic type of influence? How is your game forming when it comes to the belief system? A lot of times we don't discuss the belief system. And again, sometimes we as GMs have preferences in belief systems. Some of you would say, I am not going to do a one-God system. That just drives me crazy because I grew up in that kind of settings. I don't want it. Or, no, I'm not going to have religion because they didn't accept how I view life. Don't let those type of things color how you place your world. Get from your players, again, do they want a deity-based kind of world, or do they want a non-deity-based kind of world? Or a mix of both? You got to get kind of your players, not just kind of, you got to get your players input. When you're world building, get your players' input on a lot of things. You don't want to give away the whole setting because you want to surprise them. But little things asked in the beginning can help you to really set that setting in a way that you're going to have fun with it. Is the setting going to be focused around a city-state? Is it going to be focused around a whole world, a country, islands, star systems, 1 world, 10 worlds, 1,000 worlds, an imperium, Gotham City? You've got to kind of get what your setting of your campaign is and the scale. Because here's the thing. If you don't plan the scale right, your players will challenge you and go outside of that scale and surprise you. Remember? Last GM tips if you watched it, 147? Mm-hmm. Surprises. Don't be surprised. So, that plays in. Thank you, Mini G. So, that comes into play. Details of that area you're creating. What's the player's base of operation going to be? Do they look different from everyone else in that setting with their characters? How do they make a living? How long have they been making that living? The setting at war or peace they're in right now. Why are they with each other? How are their lives affected by different things? Where can they go to get resources and not? These are all details that play into the heroic side, but it plays into the setting itself. How are the people in that world? Is it a feudalistic society? Is it a scholarly society? Is it an enlightened society? Is it a agrarian society? Is it an egalitarian society? What type of society is it? You have to look at, and every country is different, and every setting may be different, every world may be different. So you have to look at it that way. Remember, when Lucas did Star Wars, many of you guys are big Star Wars fans, or Star Trek fans if you want to look at Roddenberry. They had to plan out what was the societal setting. How did all these worlds work together? Was there commerce? Was there not? Was there wars? Was there not? How did it affect the whole setting that these people were set in? Star Wars at war with the Empire. Empire and the Rebels. The outlying rebel worlds. Star Trek, the Federation, and everyone else. You have to look at how the setting will be. What is the calendar? What is the day cycle? How long is a day? How long are there 1 or 2 moons in the sky? Are there 1 or 2 suns? Are there 3 suns? How is this all set? What kind of agriculture are there? What kind of plant life? Are things different than Earth's plant life? Are the critters different? Is it a desert world? Is it a rich, lush world? Is it a jungle world? Is it multiple worlds with all the above? You got to factor these kind of things in and define them out. But make sure it's something your players want. If you go do 20 worlds and they're only going to explore 2, then you are making way too much workload for yourself. You're doing it for you and not them. So remember that. And that's something, guys, that's why we don't ever get these homebrew campaigns done. We sit there and we painstakingly go to detail levels sometimes our players don't even give a flying flip about. You've got to look at what matters to your players and the story. Yes, there's other background things that, of course, you have to have. Trade, commerce, trade guilds, other types of things, corporations, infrastructure. That has to be there. But you don't always have to go to the painstaking levels. I love Kobold Press. I love Midgard. I love the Southlands. Wolfgang, if there was only one thing I would give you guys a little critique on, you went to the painstaking level that I think some GMs don't give a flying flip about, or parties. Please take it with a grain of salt. I don't mean this You did amazing work. Don't get me wrong. Those books, comprehensive. Guys, if you want a comprehensive world that talks about the politics and everything and has it all fleshed out, the trade and how they trade and what they do and what they trade, that's Kobold Press. They do a great job of that. However, sometimes too much. Way too much. Because for certain, you're going to scare away some GMs that don't want that. And I know you say, hey, take what you want, what you don't. If half the book is things you don't want, so just keep in mind, as you're doing a setting, you've got to choose your setting by what you want. I personally like what he did. And so personally, I have the Kobold setting in the Midgard setting, and I like it. Some don't. And some players won't care. My party will. Other parties don't. And so you got to look at that when you're designing your own homebrew. Now, again, I'm giving this as an example. Please, Kobold Press, don't take it as a knock. I love you guys. I buy your material. Not meant that way. It was an example of how much can be put into a campaign that may or may not be there needed. It can be extraneous, is what I'm saying. Are there landmarks that the players should know about in your campaign? Things that fit in that make sense? Are there certain celebrations and holidays that should have? Again, limit it to what your players are going to be interested in. There's so much other stuff that you can just skirt around. Technology, no technology. Okay, so starting scale, that's your first thing. Then the fleshing out of how day-to-day life goes in that world, within reason. Look at your players, look at them, and say, this is how much I'm going to do. You can always flesh out more later if there's more interest. Do what makes sense, okay? Where are there different things? Rivers, mountains, star systems, star clusters, nebulas, whatever makes sense. Landmark buildings, landmark locations, like the Daily Planet, the police for Metropolis's police department. There are certain things you're going to want to know. There are core NPCs that are going to be integral to the story, and some that could be integral to your players. Flesh those out with stats and everything. The players will play on that, and they will go against the skills and the feats and whatever else traits of those people and try to do negotiations, other things, collaboration, collusion, you name it. But you gotta take that into account, folks. If you don't, you're really missing the mark as a GM. What is the governing system, and what are the laws? Think about the most pertinent laws to your players. You know how they play. If you played with them before, you can almost guaranteedly, wow, they have sprinklers on in the morning. Unbelievable. Okay, not going to say anything. Love the apartment complex. Especially on a hot day in Texas. So you've got to look at these kind of things and say, I need to flesh these things out. Not just the villains and the villain story arc, but the NPCs. Like, for instance, I'm going back through Mummy's Mask. They gave us other encounters and NPCs that the party can run into. I'm giving them stats. I'm going into Hero Lab and creating the stats. Why? Because inevitably, my party will want to go there and do something. They will. They just will. I know them. So keep that in mind. What are the economics? Is it paper money, hard currency, trade goods? I had that discussion in one of the GM tip groups on Twitter. Currency, important. So, primitive societies, what's the advantage of those? The primitive societies are kind of cool. They're forming themselves. They're not quite into the worked good age. So there is a 10,000 BC kind of aspect to it. Remember that movie? Kind of cool. Kind of some interesting things coming on there. Different societies. Some are nomadic. Some are cave dwellers. Some are migratories. Some are stationary societies. Some are jungle-esque. So there's all kinds of things. Religion hasn't quite formed yet. But there's a lot of superstition in that age. A lot of shamanism. a lot of other things. So it's kind of cool. And this could be after a fall of a society where in the second age of this world, they're coming back up. So they could go into old cities and not know what they are. And there's just that aspect of, wow, that's where Numenera is so cool. And Monty Cook and Shannon Germain and the whole group over there at Monty Cook Games did such a great job of that. Because there's so much that the players just don't know and understand, because to them, they're a whole new age. They don't know these things. It's like society has risen and fallen 8 times, and this is the 9th age, and they don't know. Kind of cool. Is it a feudal society? Feudal society that's risen up. So now you have your dukes, duchesses, princesses. That's where a lot of the setting for Pathfinder is, with the Inner Sea and Dungeons and Dragons. The feudal age. What is the hierarchy? What are the nobles' names? How is religion used in those roles? Is there a certain order and structure to it? Are there caste systems? Are there lack of caste systems? Is it more like some of the areas that allow free thinking and republic type of thinking? A lot of elements there to play with. Rural agrarian societies, so a lot like Japan and China that came up more agrarian and where things meant something. So again, or it could be a modern time, way after, say, all of the fall of technology, where now they've gone back to a simpler way of life and living. Is it cosmopolitan? Is it not? Is it a big city? What types of things go on? It doesn't have to be something based off of Earth for your heroes. It can be based off of another world. Bureaucracy always seems to come into play in any society. Decadence tends to play in. Sometimes you've got theocracies and magocracies and matriarchal societies. So it can be a different flair on who is the ruling. That's why I like Kadira out of Pathfinder and the Inner Sea, because it is a woman-run matriarchal society. It's Middle Eastern and it's matriarchal. Love it. Love it. And I know who did that. And Miss Price, you did a great job on that. I give you 100% credit on making a matriarchal blend of that. And that was so cool. It's something different for us as GMs to go, ooh, now that's kind of fun. The men don't have standing. They don't have property. It's the women who control things. And the women's family name that controls things. I like it. Spins and twists. Technology. Is it Steam Age technology? Did Steam Age take over? What did it do? How did it change things? How did the steam-powered firearms change the whole thing versus black powder? Technology. Is it technology found in a medieval society? Is it found in a more modern society? Is the technology at peak levels? Can they time travel? Can they go star traveling? Where does it take us? All these things you have to kind of answer. And you have to have some things, but don't get bogged down in so much of writing all the painstaking details. It's great. Flesh it out a little bit at a time as needed. That's where GMs come into burnout. And you guys hit me with burnout a lot. How do I keep from burning out? Because I use other people's material. I do what this says. Take published material and make it your own. Because there's already a lot of great ideas out there. I don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And that's what burns you out sometimes. You want all these homebrew games. And I love homebrew, don't get me wrong. But if you live and die by homebrew, you will live and die by burnout. I'm just telling you right now. GMs who are experiencing burnout, you're the ones doing the homebrews. Cut it out. Take a break from it. Use somebody's written material once in a while. Even if you don't love it, make it your own. Much easier to take and tweak something than it is to write your own. And you do. It's like a writer writing books all the time. You hit writer's block after a while. And it's because you're always doing your own. You run out of ideas. It's a lot of brain power to do these things. Cut it out. Quit hobbling yourself that way. Take a break now and then. It's okay to use Greyhawk. It's okay to use Numenera. It's okay to use Savage Worlds Deadlands Reloaded. It's okay. It's okay to use Pure Steam's setting or Tefra's setting for steampunk. It's okay. I know you want it to be your own. You want to create your own vision of it. But that's a lot of work. And after a while, you tire. And it burns you out to where you're not having fun anymore. I don't like that. I gave up doing homebrews a long time ago. And I'm telling you this. I've given it up. I don't do homebrews anymore. At all. At all. I will tell you right now, I refuse to write a homebrew for the rest of my days till they stick me in the ground. Here's why. Because I did it all my life. I did it early on with D&D. I did it 5 different homebrew worlds. I did it with Gamma Worlds. I did it with other things. And I got tired, guys. I really did. The first, 20 years of playing, I did this stuff. And I got tired. Now I just add on to other people's. I expand the world. I change it. I make it a little bit more of what I want. Because the initial ideas are done. Now I just tweak them. Much easier to do. Less time consuming. I can still take some great ideas and expound on them and turn them into really fun extra ideas. That's my guys. The reason I do that is for that reason. So I can put more time into the NPCs, the inner working structures of things, tweaking the little things. That's more fun to me. Because then I make it really my own. If you look at Reign of Winter, watch those videos and read through the story, and you will see I have made it my own. Oh, I've kept a lot of the core elements, of course, because I don't want to take it away from what the writers truly meant to do with it. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of NPCs and other things that weren't there. I'm promising you. And you're going to see it go, wait a minute, that wasn't in mine. It's where I make it my own. Do that, and you will get less burnout. But if you're doing these yourself, don't go to the depth. You burn yourself every time. Use some ideas that have been used before. It's okay. Just give credit where credit's due. It's not your own idea. I do that all the time. You hear me say, Paizo. This is out of Paizo. This is out of Wizards. This is out of Monty Cook Games. It's okay to use people's ideas and give them credit for it. That's the highest compliment you can pay them. I do it. So, those are kind of the things that I would recommend when you're doing your own homebrews. Again, don't have to adopt my mindset of homebrews. I've just burned out on over the years. I don't have the time to write up a whole society from scratch. I just don't. A city, yes. A society, no. No, I don't have the time. And as a dad, I don't want to take the time. And call me fickle in that way. I've done that in my early years when I was single. I'm happy. I've moved on. And so I've come to the fine art of take somebody else's material and make it my own. And that way I pay them compliment and I pay me compliment at the same time. So hope you love this GM tips. Have fun creating. And do me a favor. Don't burn yourself out on things. These games are too much fun to do that with. All right? Thanks again. Have a great